Hey everybody, it's me, it's your old pal, the original gamer StevieStrow, and we are back for another exciting video game showcase. Are you ready? Let's do it! What is going on, everybody? We are back in the arcade, we are back in the 80s, and I am going to take you through a tour of some of the most classic and iconic space shooter games from the original arcade, starting with the original 1978 Space Invaders. Let's go ahead and pop a couple quarters in here. Let's hit one player start, and then let's go ahead and fire this puppy up. Space Invaders was basically the game that launched the space shooter genre. And what happens here is you're a little spaceship on the bottom of the screen here, and you're trying to defend yourself and hide behind these bases. And there's a whole bunch of Space Invaders up here on the screen that are basically moving from left to right, and they are making their way down towards you, and they will eventually get you if you do not take them all out. Space Invaders are dropping bombs, which can hit you, which you have to avoid. You do have these... Wow, that UFO is really loud. That UFO is like wicked loud. Man, my ears are bleeding right now. So yeah, so you have these bunkers you can hide behind temporarily, but the bombs they're dropping are taking everything out. The interesting thing about Space Invaders, being one of the first video games ever released, and it came out in 1978, the game was actually in black and white. And what they did to add color, which was pretty, I'll wait for this UFO to shut up. What they did to add color, which was pretty ghetto fabulous, actually, pretty high-tech engineering for 1978, is they put some clear tape over the screen to basically, it's kind of like a film, if you imagine like what we have now, like a window clingy. They had some clear colored tape or film over the glass on the computer screen. Oh my God, that is so noisy. And that added color. So on the bottom of the screen, they had some green tape to make the bottom part look green. On the very top row, they had some red tape, and that top row is where a UFO will randomly fly across the screen. UFO is basically there to give you points. If you happen to hit the UFO, you gotta time your shots. Dude, I stood there and let him hit me. What a loser. The last invader always got really fast, right? And when you took out the last invader, you were treated with another wave of Space Invaders. And so this was it. This was the first, one of the first video games to ever hit the United States. This game came out in 1978, and it was called Space Invaders. And I'm not sure if this was the first, but this was definitely... one of the most memorable, one of the most iconic space shooters of the whole decade of the 80s. This game would go on to inspire many, many more space shooters and pretty much launched the genre of the space shooter. So we're going to see some of those other games next. So let's go ahead and take a look at Galaxians. We are the Galaxians. Mission: destroy all aliens. So this had a convoy. And let's see what one of the main differences is. Let me put in a couple quarters here. Let me go ahead and hit one player start, and let's check it out. The first thing you'll notice is that the game is in color. The second thing you'll notice is that instead of them just moving side to side and working their way down, they actually dive bomb you. And there's a little bit more background music, or background sound effects, I should say. So you hear the sounds of the spaceships in space. Ooh, blowing up there. You hear the sounds of the spaceships moving around in space. You hear the sounds of them dive bombing on you. And then you hear yourself shooting as well. And you hear yourself exploding when you get hit. Definitely a greater degree of difficulty. So for just 1 year later, this was really, I would almost say, a quantum leap in game technology, because we went from black and white to multicolor. We went from minimal sounds to much more sounds. We went from a fairly static, rigid, predictable pattern of Space Invaders to more dive bombing type formations. So the software was more advanced, the game logic was more advanced. It was definitely something to compete for your hard-earned quarter, for sure. Am I dead? I got one dude left. So here's my last dude. Let's see how well we do. You also notice on the bottom of the screen there's a flag. If you complete a wave, you'll see more flags down there. And that feature they would go on to use many more times. Alright, so the next entry in our showcase here was something rather unique. This game was called Gorf. And what Gorf did was basically borrow from some existing iconic games of the time like Space Invaders and Galaxian, but it also added more. So where Space Invaders and Galaxian both were pretty much the same game and the same concept over and over and over again, this one actually gave us many different types of games to play, as you can see here. So let's see how many of these things we can get through here. And it had a really cool synthetic robotic voice here too that you just heard. Let me go ahead and stick in a quarter. Let me hit one player start. And let's see how well we can do. One of the things I'm noticing here is that if you try to shoot too many times, it only lets one shot at a time actually make its way up. So if you shoot a second time, it kind of retracts the first shot. And I'm not sure what the pattern here is because this thing is moving so quickly. I usually like in Space Invaders to do a take out a row at a time or a column at a time. This one's going so fast I'm not sure I can really find a pattern here. Right now my pattern is to survive. Gotta lead your shots. Wow. Okay. So this is a Galaxian type round here. Very noisy. Oh, I just bumped into the laser. I just bumped into the lasers. So that long trail of a laser definitely made it harder for you to feel safe in this situation here. Dude, that guy's a beast. I need to take him out. I can't move anywhere else. Dude, you gotta go. You need to go down. Thank you. Okay. So this is Galaxian. So I'm assuming that they got the copyrights to do this all, or it was actually the same company. Because other than it looking a little bit different, a little bit brighter and shinier, this was the Galaxian's game. And man, this is really noisy. I'm hoping my voice is going to come out louder than this game here. My goodness, this is like death, man. This is actually a little bit more challenging than the real Galaxians I just played a minute ago. Last dude. Oh my god, deep breath. So now this is a completely different phase of the game. One thing this game did was to have a very bright, shiny, kind of sparkly display here. And it was much more prominent, much more visible in the arcade on the monitors that they used. But it was a very sparkly, shiny, bright display. These guys are kind of spinning around in circles now. Space Warp, this one's called. And the graphics were pretty good. The graphics really were. This is pretty high resolution, high detail graphics for the time. Oh, dude.
Galactic Defender Kildar Space Cadet.
Space Cadet. Who are you calling a Space Cadet? Space Cadet? This game is really loud. Dude.
Bad move. Space Cadet.
Okay. Okay, this is the final battle. This is like the mothership. So this game was pretty cool because it gave you a lot to do. Now he's got his own shield, kind of like what we had in Space Invaders. And it's going to take a lot of hits to take him out. So you have to chip away at that flagship while avoiding the attacks on you. You have to chip away his shield. Man, this is tough. This is real. Oh, I can move up too. I just realized that. I'm not stuck to just left and right movements. I'm also not used to the fact that I can only shoot one shot at a time. This is really tough. This is really tough.
Space Cadet.
My god, this is insane. is absolutely insane. I may or may not defeat the boss, but if I don't feel too bad. Well, of course I feel bad. Of course I feel bad. Who likes to lose? I don't like to lose. All right, so that was Gorf. Gorf came out about a year later after Galaxian. So you're now seeing the evolution of space shooters. I've showed you Space Invaders, that was black and white. I've shown you Galaxian, which added color and dive bombing attacks and a little bit more sound. And I'm now showing you Gorf, which has now made my ears basically want to bleed here. And Gorf has basically given us an extremely challenging game with like 4 or 5 different levels. So Gorf was many games in one, rather than it being the same thing over and over and over again. It was a game that gave us some variety, and it gave me a run for my money. It really challenged me. So I enjoyed Gorf, but we're not done. We got something else to show. All right, so the game we're looking at now, I will tell you firsthand, I have spent many quarters on this game. Also brought to us by Midway, the same company who made Galaxian. A few years later, they would give us Galaga. And we're going to go ahead and play Galaga because this is an awesome game. Let's take a look. Let's slap in a couple quarters. Let's hit that one-player start button. And let's go ahead and see what we can do. So Galaga was unique on many fronts. It was unique that instead of it being spaceships, now they're bugs. So you have like bumblebees and butterflies and dragonflies or moths or whatever they are. So it did a change on the everyday spaceship thing. Still using dive bomb attacks similar to Galaxian, but a lot more coordinated. Another feature that this game would use, which I'll show you on the second round, was the fact that you could pick up your ship and actually double up your ships and become a 2-shooter, which I'll show you here in a minute. And it is essentially a lot of repetitiveness. However, they did mix things up a lot by giving you challenge stages and other things like that. So they did throw you a lot of bones and give you a lot of treats for playing the game. The longer you played, the more things you would see and be able to do. And we're going to see one of those right now. The first thing that's pretty cool is the ability to have your ship captured. I've just been captured. And the music was really cool too. This music was so iconic. Now that I'm captured, I need to try to shoot myself back when he's dive bombing me. I've just gotten myself back. All right, and just in time now, because Wave 3 is the first of many challenging phases. Let's see how well we do. And this was a major button masher. Shoot, I missed one. If you got everything in the challenging stage, you got an extra good 10,000 point bonus. And these games were all about the points. Like I'm all about that base, this was all about the points. I missed one lousy ship. I got 39 out of 40. I would have gotten a 10,000 point bonus. I got a free dude. But now I've got 2 shooters. The good thing about having 2 shooters is you can do more damage. The bad news about having 2 shooters is you take up more space, and so it's now harder to avoid the dive bombing ships and the falling bombs and stuff. But essentially the game repeated the very similar waves in attacks. Dude, I just got blowed up twice. So it repeated a lot of the same attacks, the same formations, but they did get increasingly more difficult. And we did see a couple bonus things there. We just saw this little thing that broke out into 3 ships. He made like a really weird noise. Man, this is bad. It's hard for me to talk and play at the same time here. But so there were like little bonus creatures that you could get and shoot for extra points. They would break into 3, and if you got all 3, you got a bonus point. The other thing you'll notice is in the bottom right hand corner, it shows me what wave or level I'm on. I made it to wave 5, which is pretty bad. I used to always be able to get to at least wave 10 on a single quarter. Okay, very popular feature of the arcade is the ability to put up your initials. This is the actual real arcade game here. So let's go ahead and put in OG, and then boom. OG, #1 score. So this was it. The games never ended. There was no finishing of the game. So your whole mission in life was to get the high score and get your name up there on the leaderboard. These are games that not only defined the space shooter genre, but defined the generation of space shooting games in the arcade in the 80s. These games would go on to inspire many other games in the arcade as well as in home consoles and home computers. But these were the real deals. These were the 4 big major space shooters that people played in the arcades starting from 1978 all the way up through the mid and early 80s. There's plenty more space shooters which I will show you, but I just wanted to kind of give you a quick little showcase here of 4 major iconic titles. I hope you enjoyed them all. Thank you so much for watching. I am the original gamer, StevieStrow. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, how about smash that like button, give it a big fat thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you got something to say, throw out a comment. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what you'd like to see next, and I'd really love it if you could share this video and share my channel with your friends and help me grow. Thank you so much. I will see you all next time. Peace out and bye-bye, everybody.